Okay, welcome to day 9 in the Whiskey Advent Calendar. Now, this is fun. This is a whiskey that I have never had but heard of from a company that I've never tried anything they've done, but I've heard of them. So finally, something new. And it gives me a little bit of an explanation I get to throw in there, so it makes me look smarter, which is always my favorite video. So, this is Old Perth Sherry Cask Blended Malt. Now remember what we said about blended malts. Blended malts are the ones that single malts, multiple distilleries, right? So the Old Perth, it's going to be a collection of malt whiskeys from a few different distilleries in a certain area that they chose. Now the company that makes it is Morrison and Mackay, and they're multiple generations of blending independent bottling. Now, some of my all-time favorite Scotch whiskeys come from independent bottlers. You've got Compass Box, they're more of a blender, but you've got Douglas Lang, you've got Signatory, man, there's so many. So hard to name them all. Morrison and Mackay, they have several different lines that they're blending. Now, the coolest thing about this is that they say early on, Old Perth Scotch whiskey was made in Perthshire. And it was a family of grocers that founded it originally. And this is in the 1900s, early 1900s. So, this leads you to an interesting fact about old original Scotch era, and that was back in the day, Scotch wasn't sold by bottles. It was made and then carted around in either earth jars or later in wood barrels to keep the damage down. And grocers would buy whiskeys from all these different people, and then they would bottle them and sell them to their customers. Now, this is exactly what led to the beginnings of Johnny Walker. What he noticed was, you know, you have 5 different guys bringing you things, and each time they bring a new batch, it's not quite the same as it was before. And so Johnny Walker started blending his whiskeys to create a consistent product for his customers, and that led to the famous Johnny Walker blend, which is a great whiskey. Grocers and farmers, that's who you have to thank if you love whiskey. Because they are responsible for all the origins of great whiskey across the world in most every country. That whiskey has become important in. So I just think that's cool that they started as merchants and grocers, and I just think that's great. It's such a connection to the true origins of Scotch. Now, I have no idea what to get of this. They did say that this is matured exclusively in sherry, and usually I don't like whiskeys that are pure sherry aged because they're so clingy sweet. But I'm going to give this one a shot because, you know, whiskey. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right off the bat. That is heavy sherry. Oh, but there's some interesting things happening behind there. I'm getting sort of a musty old bookshelf kind of vibe. I'm thinking, because I found that a couple of whiskeys back, that if you combine really heavy sherry with a lot of the phenols and certain chemicals and certain whiskeys, you get this sort of musty old shop vibe, and I'm sort of getting that in here mixed with the sweetness of the sherry. This is not even close to anything that we've tasted up to this point. This is its own animal. Wow. Yeah, it's okay. Not a fan. I don't think it's a bad whiskey. It's just got this slight sour back end note to it that sort of kind of lingers, and it's actually reminding me a lot of some of the North American single malts with that same kind of clingy. I wish there was a better word for sour, because I don't feel like sour is really what I'm looking for. There's a better word for it. There's got to be a better word for it than sour. You know what? I still have my cheat sheet of whiskey smells over here. And I'm betting... I kind of want to see what the hay smell smells like again, because I feel like it might be that. This sort of dried grass vibe. And I'm totally doing that all wrong. You're never supposed to go straight from the bottle. But no, this hay is too sweet. Maybe. No, that's not it. I'm trying to come up with something to explain the musty feel. And if you ever grew up around barns, then you know the smell of a hay barn. It smells equal parts cut grass and dirt and earth and animal poo. It doesn't sound near as bad as I just made it sound, but it's a lot of earth notes in with the hay. It's not just pure hay. And I think that smell component in their smelling kit is pure cut grass, like on the field after you just cut the hay. I'm thinking, when I think hay, I immediately picture myself in a hay barn, and that smells very different. And that's sort of, I'm getting this sort of dusty cut hay, dried hay mix. Now it's got some kind of smoky edge character, and the more I sip on this, the more I like it. I didn't gravitate to it the first one. Now this is something that I always do with whiskey. I believe in general, I think that the best way to experience a whiskey is pour a full glass and live with it. Just don't drink it down. Just with little distraction, maybe a book or some music or hanging out with some friends where the conversation is not hard work. And just sit and take an hour to drink one glass of whiskey. Smelling it the whole time. Don't do this with TV because your mind is elsewhere. And then, why just take a drink. And by the time you get to the end of it, it's going to taste very differently than when you started. And I'm already there. I already like this whiskey a lot more on the third and fourth sips, which may or may not be a taste thing. Maybe an inebriation problem. Or maybe the fact that my tongue is starting to get numb to the thing that was really dramatic at first, that's now buried. But, that's part of exploring a whiskey, is the things that really stuck out to you at first eventually kind of subside, and you find yourself able to find things that were behind that, and I feel like I'm finding things that are behind that now. Yeah, I wouldn't gravitate to it straight off, but I get it. All right, so to Old Perth, and thank you to Morrison and McKay. And I'm, again, Master of Malt. You're still killing it. Looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow. I'll see you guys then.